Sports Plus is sponsored by Compliance Solutions, simplified compliance for empowered businesses.
Welcome to Sports Plus. I am Corey Miller. We have a bit of a Blues history lesson on deck tonight, as well as a look back at some of the spookiest NFL Sundays we've ever seen in St. Louis, and we had plenty to choose from. But we begin with Saturday's heartbreak in Nashville. Disappointing results are not new for fans of Mizzou athletics. We are well versed in heartbreak. Saturday's 17-10 loss to Vanderbilt was especially brutal. And so for our main event, we wrap up a game of inches and injuries in Nashville. It's not hyperbole to call Saturday's game one of the most hyped in the history of the Vanderbilt campus. The Doors and their electric leader, Diego Pavia, were ranked in the top 10 for the first time since 1947. ESPN's College Game Day was on hand, the stands were packed, and the number 15 Tigers provided another opportunity for Vandy to prove itself. Halfway through, we had a 3-3 stalemate. Not exactly the excitement ESPN was hoping for. But then one sequence changed the game, and perhaps Missouri's season. Mizzou forced a Pavia turnover and had the Doors on their heels. But from the 2-yard line, they could not punch it in. And on fourth down, Mizzou lost quarterback Bo Pribula to a dislocated ankle.
Has no broken bones, but he did have an ankle injury that had to be popped back in, so don't have a timetable for his return, but it could be a while.
And when you thought things couldn't get lower, they did. A Robert Meyer missed field goal followed immediately by an 80-yard Vandy TD had the Tigers on their heels. But an Eli Drinkwitz's group never gives up.
There's a lot of fight, man. Defense, offense, especially, when our QB goes down, we could easily try to give up, but we kept fighting.
Enter true freshman quarterback Matt Zollers, who looked comfortable under the bright lights, leading drives and connecting with fellow freshman Jude James for a then game-tying touchdown.
Yeah, I was really proud of him. I thought he did an excellent job, obviously. I thought he played really big, the fourth down conversions to give us a chance. And then to, when they took the lead to drive the ball down and score, I thought was really impressive. So, moment wasn't too big for him.
At the end, Mizzou still had a shot, but with no time left on the clock, a Hail Mary to Kevin Coleman ended up just a few inches short. Now, what comes next? Not only did they lose Pribula, tight end Brett Norfleet also exited and was in the sling on the sideline. The playoff dream isn't dead, but it just got a whole lot harder.
And they're going to have to fight. They're going to have to fight. It's, there's going to be a lot of negativity based off of the injuries and all that. And they just got to fight, fight it. And, there's still a lot of football left, a lot of opportunities left. The reality of it is, like I told them in there, we're probably not playing for the conference championship now with 2 losses, but we're darn sure playing for the playoffs. And so, it becomes a one-game season week in, week out.
Yesterday was just as bad for the Blues. They built a quick 4-0 lead last night, but maybe Jake Neighbors taking a shot off his knee was a sign of things to come. Later, Jimmy Snuggerud hit the post. That could have put the Note up by 5. But instead of building on the lead, they let it fritter away, giving up 6 unanswered goals, 3 in the third period. Coach Jim Montgomery was left to wonder, but offered this when asked what adjustments the Red Wings made.
One thing they did do is their defensemen pinched more. That may have led to one of the 2 goals that went from 4-1 to 4-3. Besides that, I think that we changed our game. We didn't play as assertively. No, we got to, be able to check for 60 minutes, right? And we didn't check for 60 minutes. We did a great job for about 38, and the last 22 weren't good enough.
This 5 on Your Side St. Louis City SC coverage is sponsored by Together Credit Union.
City SC2 had their following even in the rain in the MLS Next Pro Conference semifinals against Minnesota 2 Sunday night. But the top seed City 2 fell behind in the 17th minute. Logan Dorsey chips it over the keeper and in. 1-0 Minnesota. It stayed that way until the 78th minute. Darius Randall on the header, and Minnesota pulls the stunner. City 2 is done as Minnesota wins 2-0.
This Sports Plus conversation is sponsored by your Quality Ford dealers. Ford F-Series, America's best-selling trucks for 47 years.
You could argue nobody has seen more live sports in our town over the last 40 years than Jim Thomas. The former St. Louis Rams beat writer turned St. Louis Blues beat writer is off the beat now, but he's not done writing. Thomas has penned a new book, The Franchise, a curated history of the St. Louis Blues. He dropped by earlier this week to talk about it for tonight's Sunday Conversation. And it is my pleasure to welcome former Post-Dispatch beat writer Jim Thomas to Sports Plus. Now, Jim, when people retire, they play a lot of golf, they vacation. You wrote this book, The Franchise St. Louis Blues. Why did you do it?
First off, you haven't seen me golf, so I once hit a moving car at the old North Shore course. I don't know if it's still on the hop, hit the grill. The guy honked at me, gave me the finger, but thank God he drove off. So I like to play where it's cheap and there are few witnesses. But this came about, this is like 2 years in the making, Corey. About a month before I announced my retirement from the Post-Dispatch, so about April of 2023, I was approached by Triumph Books, publishing firm, regional publishing firm in Chicago. There's never really been an attempt at an extensive history of the blues, so it was a lot of fun to do, a lot of research, mixed in personal observations, being on the blues beat for 6 years at the end of my career, but also did some fresh interviews for the book, so a lot of fun.
Tell me about the sheer amount of work that goes into summing up 50 years of a team's history into this book.
Well, I figured out maybe I made about $9 an hour. So if you want to buy the book, you can. I am on a fixed income now. But yeah, it was a lot. And I think you'd be hard pressed, maybe fans in a lot of cities say it, to find a franchise that has had so many crazy things happen, so many ups and downs, almost moving to Saskatoon, and just some great players being here, Gretzky and Hull, and great coaches, Scotty Bowman, Al Arbor, on and on. And it was a task to sum it all up. I couldn't go maybe into depth on some things, but we covered a lot of ground.
You led into something I was going to ask you. How close was this to being a history of the Saskatoon Blues book?
Well, it was very close, and I think part of the reason that it didn't happen is because enough NHL owners thought Saskatoon was too small of a market. But yeah, it was very close to happening. They had agreed. They were in the plans of building a stadium up there. They had Saskatoon Blues swag up there at the time, so that was quite a save. And during that period, I mean, the Blues were financially, they were strapped. I remember Bernie Federko, and I believe it's in the book, telling me that they would get like hand-me-down warm-up uniforms, and also he signed a bunch of sticks, gave it to a friend. Ownership made him take the sticks back and use them in games. So he was using sticks he had autographed in games.
I know, fans know a lot of the history. You know almost all the history, but did you unearth anything while writing this book you maybe didn't know before that was kind of amusing?
Well, especially a lot of the early things, the early history. The first thing I say to people about that, I did not know this, being a St. Louis native, big sports fan. St. Louis had an NHL team in 1934. They were called the St. Louis Eagles. The front of their jersey looked very similar to the Anheuser-Busch symbol. They were the old Ottawa Senators. They lasted only 1 year. And Lynn Patrick, who was the first GM and first coach of the expansion Blues in 1967, played the Eagles at the old arena as a member of the New York Rangers, and then later came back as coach. So that blew my mind. But a lot of other things. We had the Chicago Blackhawks play home games here, Corey, in the mid-50s and part of 2 seasons. In 1960, the Toledo Mercuries, a minor league team, played 14 games here. They had I think it was the American Congress Bowling Convention, which was a big thing to get in Toledo or any town at the time, taking up their arena for the whole month. So their arena in Toledo, so we had room here and no hockey teams, so they played 14 games there. It's just some of the crazy stuff.
Not a lot of journalists out there who can say they were on the beat for a Super Bowl win and a Stanley Cup win. You can. Did you ever think when you're sitting in a NFL press box you'd be writing a hockey book? Take me through that's a big transition for somebody to make it in their career. How do you reflect on that time going from football to hockey?
Especially, late in a career. So I was petrified because I know sports fans in St. Louis They know their teams. And if you don't know what you're talking about or writing about, they discover it pretty quick. But he talked me into it, and I have 3 boys. The youngest, Roger, I knew he was a Blues fan, but when I just agreed to take on the beat, I didn't realize what a fanatic he was. He really helped me out a lot the first year. They didn't have me travel for about the first month of the season. They just wanted me to kind of gradually get my feet wet. My son, Roger, would come over and he'd sit down. He would act literally, I swear, explain stuff to me. I'm glad the Blues didn't win the Cup that first year because I wouldn't have known what I was seeing. I had a year under my belt for that amazing 2018-2019 season.
Tell folks where they can get the book and where you might be out signing some copies.
Well, Amazon.com online, TriumphBooks.com. A lot of book signings. I'm doing a lot of craft fairs. So if you're at your high school craft fair, look in between the scented candles and the crochet items, and there'll be this old man selling books. That'll be me.
Jim, thanks so much for coming in. I appreciate your time. We'll be right back with more Sports Plus. With Halloween less than a week away, we decided to compile our Sunday Scaries. And with 49 seasons of pro football here, the Rams in Big Red provided a fertile crop of ideas. Senior producer Andy Moeller sets the proper mood and offers this list in tonight's Spotlight Story.
We begin in 2012. London was the place. Stan Kroenke was there. So was Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and the defending Super Bowl champion Patriots. Any hopes the Rams had of dishing out some payback for Spygate went away pretty quickly, even though they scored first. The Patriots answered back with 45 straight points. Despite that showing, the NFL has continued to be invited back across the pond.
I have a slow motion camera.
The football Cardinals played their first 5 games on the road in 1964, but it was only supposed to be 4. Because the baseball Cardinals were in the World Series,
He struck him out, swinging.
the football home game against the Colts was moved to Baltimore. The Colts won 47-27, and that loss cost the Big Red a division championship. Unbeaten in their final 6 games, they fell short by a half a game.
Playing the New York Football Giants, and hello!
Week 1 of the 2003 season was a nightmare in the daytime. Kurt Warner wanting to make up for a lost 2002. But 6 fumbles later, the Rams lost 23-13. Warner was a Giant the next year.
From the 31 of Carolina.
A nightmare to begin the season and another one to end it. Rams and Panthers double overtime in the divisional playoff round.
Fires to an open Smith. Steve Smith is going to go all the way.
12-4 season ends in a flash, 29-23.
But many of the sports experts downtrodden him a little bit.
It didn't matter if it was Wally Lem, Charlie Winter, Bob Holloway, or even Don Coryell. 5 times in 9 years, the Cardinals finished 4-9-1. And what are the odds of it happening 3 times in a row? Look it up. It happened in 1971, 72, and 73. The 2000 Rams were back in the playoffs the year after winning the Super Bowl, riding Marshall Faulk's MVP season and overcoming Kurt Warner's first major injury. The Rams rallied from 24 down to within 3 of the Saints and were about to get the ball back late.
Which is fair. Caught at the 9-yard line and then fumble at the 11-yard line. And who has the football? The Saints.
Their chance to repeat was over, 31-28. Larry Wilson was a one-of-a-kind safety for the Big Red.
With his hawk-like profile, he looked like the Cardinals symbol itself.
Nothing typified the Hall of Famer known as Wildcat than the day he played with casts protecting broken bones in both hands. Not only played, but excelled, intercepting a pass and nearly scoring. Twice the Rams had the #1 pick in the draft. Orlando Pace sure worked out pretty well. Then there was the curious case of Sam Bradford. The quarterback from Oklahoma was the Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2010, missed a lot of time with a bad ankle in 2011, posted career-high numbers in 2012, tore his ACL in 2013, tore the same ACL in 2014's preseason, traded away in 2015.
Following the finest season in St. Louis history, the team laid an egg in Los Angeles.
The football Cardinals made the postseason just 3 times in 28 seasons. They also left scars in some of the seasons they could have. 1966, Charlie Winter's first season started out 7-1-1, but then quarterback Charlie Johnson tore up a knee. The Big Red lost 4 of their last 5. 1970, Winter again had the Cardinals off to a 7-2 beginning, including 3 straight shutouts, one on a memorable Monday night against Dallas. They won only once in their final 5, and Winter was fired. 1977, the final season of Coryell's Cardiac Cards began 7-3, but then the wheels fell off. 4 straight losses to close out, and Coryell, too, was fired. December 17, 2015, the Rams' final home game here in St. Louis. Boy, did they go out in style on a Thursday night nationally televised game. Call it the ketchup and mustard game. The NFL called them color rush uniforms, but everyone with eyes called them ugly. Jeff Fisher closing in on another 7-9 season, and behind quarterback Case Keenum's near-perfect night, the Rams end their time here with a 31-23 win. And then there was the nightmare on Stadium Plaza. Cards and Giants on Monday night, and they went into overtime. Kicker Neil O'Donohue had 3 separate opportunities to win the game with field goals. One, a chip shot from only 19 yards out. The game ended in a tie of futility. In this case, the tie was like kissing your great Aunt Maud. 4 Sports Plus, I'm Andy Moeller.
The Sports Trailblazer of the Week is sponsored by Don Brown Chevrolet, the home of the Don Brown deal.
How about a local trailblazer from NFL action today? Bills defensive end and Edwardsville native A.J. Epinesa uses his arms and his knee to intercept Panthers QB Andy Dalton and run that one back to the 1-yard line. Epinesa and Buffalo dismantled Carolina 40-9. Time now for the Victory Men's Health, Frankly Speaking, and musing about Missouri football. I can't lie, I am still thinking about that sequence on the goal line against Vandy, where on 3rd and 4th down, the best rusher through contact in the country, Ahmad Hardy, did not get the ball, and then Bo Pribula got hurt. Saturday was just the latest in a long line of almost for Mizzou football. They are right there for a truly defining victory until they aren't. Tiger fans are used to it. We're like that bug that keeps flying toward the bug zapper hanging on the porch. We know it's going to hurt us, but we're going in anyways. Tiger fans may be hurting now, but you know that game in 2 weeks against number 3 Texas A&M looks awfully shiny. I guess we're flying in again. That's our show for tonight. For senior producer Andy Moeller, I am Corey Miller. Have a great night, St. Louis.